he introduces, the P-Funk mythology that is sort of like this extraterrestrial universe where, P-Funk is rescuing people from boredom, from lazy songs, from not dancing, not having a good time. And that's where the Mothership Connection takes off. What's going on, everybody? You're right on time for another ride on the Groove Line with your host, Chris Stevens. Hopefully your weekend was well. Hopefully your Monday is off to a good start. Today is a very special day because we are honoring the 50th anniversary of one of the most important albums in the history of music. Not just black music, not just funk, not just R&B, not just rock, but black music, but not just black music, but music, period. We're talking about this dandy, the Mothership Connection by Parliament, which came out on December 15th, 1975. It is one of the most important records from the space of when you consider that Parliament-Funkadelic hadn't really taken off into the stratosphere as of yet. This was their introduction to a slightly larger audience because Parliament-Funkadelic never went pop per se. They never had those songs that, are in white movies and commercials and all of that good stuff. Parliament-Funkadelic is one of the most black famous entities in the history of black famous. And Mothership Connection was an album that George Clinton conceived in the mind of his that was altered states with plenty of influences, shall we say. And he said that he wanted to put black people in spaces where they hadn't been before, and space was one of those spaces. And so he said he was a fan of Star Trek and all of that good stuff. So he introduces, the P-Funk mythology that is sort of like this extraterrestrial universe where, P-Funk is rescuing people from boredom, from lazy songs, from not dancing, not having a good time. And that's where the Mothership Connection takes off. I mean, it's so funny because the intro to P-Funk Wants to Get Funked Up is really reminiscent of Orson Welles' 1938 radio program War of the Worlds, which of course scared the bejabbers out of everybody. Everybody's like, oh my God, the aliens have arrived. We're all going to die. This is how you know the Great Depression had people tripping because people really thought that radio program was legit. But no, it was a radio program. But anyway, the opening line of P-Funk is, a good evening. I do not attempt to adjust your radio. There is nothing wrong. We will give it back to you as soon as you are grooved. And it's like, okay, all right, it's like, okay, sit back, relax, and get ready to enjoy this ride. And George Clinton is like a radio DJ, WEFUNK, we funk. And he starts, talking about, I was digging on your funk for a minute, though. Sound like you got a 3 on it to me. I guess that's, music talk. I went down south and heard some funk with some main ingredients like Doobie Brothers, Blue Magic, David Bowie. It was cool. But could you imagine Doobie in your funk? Ho, WEFUNK, we funk. Like George, he did not have a problem calling people out because as you will notice, we did an episode earlier this year about the Let's Take It to the Stage album by Funkadelic. And then, of course, the title track is him calling people out in all various manners. He called James Brown the godmother. He called Cool in the Gang, Fool in the Gang. He called Rufus, Sloofus. Like George he was a trip, man. He was a trip, but he believed in his band, his band of misfits, that they could outplay, outsing, outrock, outjam anybody. And the Mothership Connection is a firm example of that because what people may not remember or may not understand, I'll say, is that George Clinton pulled off the most amazing sleight of hand that you can imagine. You have 2 different bands, Parliament, Funkadelic. Parliament plays more of the R&B stuff. There's plenty of horns. There's plenty of, danceable beats, not a lot of electric guitar. I mean, just from a rock perspective, it's more like a rhythm guitar perspective. Bass, of course, Bootsy Collins. Bernie Worrell on the keyboards. Makes for a good time. Funkadelic is the rock band. I mean, they even said it on the One Nation Under a Groove album. Who says a funk band can't play rock? I mean, that people missed that entirely because I think the funk part in Funkadelic is what tripped people up. But the whole thing began as Funkadelic was the backing band for George Clinton's group, the Parliaments. And then when he lost the rights to the name Parliament for a few years, he's like, well, we got to keep this recording thing going. We might as well record as Funkadelic. And then they just started going to a harder edge style of music. But once he was able to get the Parliament name back in 74, that's when they came back with Get Up for the Downstroke. And then, of course, was Chocolate City after that. And then, of course, now we have Mothership Connection. So the Mothership Connection album itself, it is what you would expect from Parliament-Funkadelic. A lot of, hard-hitting stuff, a lot of grooves, a lot of, instrumentation. And this is a George Clinton, Bootsy Collins, Bernie Worrell masterclass in terms of songwriting and production. I don't know what substances those three were on. I don't know what their creative process was like, but those three geniuses got together in a studio, most likely United Sound in Detroit, and just put together some absolute fire. I mean, we've already talked about P-Funk, Mothership Connection, Star Child. If you hear any noise, it's just me and the boys getting down. You got to get in the bag. And they were in the bag, buddy, throughout that whole album. And then, of course, there's Tear the Roof Off the Sucker. How we want the funk, better burn and I give up the funk. Everything about that album. I mean, even Handcuffs. Handcuffs is sort of like George and Parliament and Funkadelic had some really weird ideas about, wooing women. And the song goes, do I have to put my handcuffs on your mama? Like trying to handcuff this woman, like keep her from going out. Because he's like, do I have to keep you barefoot and pregnant? I mean, you can't get away with that in 2025. 1975, possibly. 2025, not so much. That's not a song that is going to chart well with, the women of today. It probably didn't chart well with the women in 1975, if we're being completely honest. But yeah, do I have to put my handcuffs on your mama? It's like, risky. And then, of course, you have Unfunky UFO, where it's like the P-Funk crew descends on this planet of people who just don't know how to dance, but they want to learn how to dance. They're like, show me how to do that funk that you do. And then, of course, it all goes off into that. And then Night of the Thumposaurus Peoples closes it out. It's basically an instrumental track, but it's like some, Goo Goo Gaga chanting, which kind of like leads you to believe that the Thumposaurus Peoples are another part of the mythology that, these folks just aren't too big on words. They just get down with the get down. So Mothership Connection, it's one of the most important records of all time. I mean, it literally shows you just the level of chaotic genius that George Clinton was overseeing in Parliament-Funkadelic's prime years. Like, you can probably say their prime years go from Maggot Brain, which was 71, probably to, Uncle Jam Wants You, or the Motor Booty Affair, which was like 79. So most of the 70s, Parliament-Funkadelic put out some memorable records. And I'm not even saying the stuff before, the first Parliament record, Osmium, that ain't bad. The first two Funkadelic records, Self-Titled and Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow, those aren't bad either. But, 71 is when they really started to take off with Maggot Brain, where they just have to be Funkadelic for a while. Then they come back to the R&B side of things in 74, and then they just reestablish this whole thing as an incredible ensemble of musicians. And again, you are talking about two different bands, two different names, the same people playing at least five different styles of music, because you got R&B, you got soul, you got jazz, you got funk, you got rock. You probably count. I mean, some of the later era, P-Funk stuff could be considered disco. So yeah, say six. So two bands, two different names, the same musicians playing at least six styles of music. Only George Clinton, man. Only George Clinton. Just an incredible display of, working with what you have. And I mean, he had some great people. I mean, come on, Bootsy Collins ended up becoming a star all unto himself with Bootsy's Rubber Band. Bernie Worrell, God rest his soul, was thought of as one of the greatest keyboardists to ever live. And he was basically like he was the genius behind the genius. Like, George was the one front and center, but Bernie was behind the scenes working out the melodies and all of that good stuff. So, Mothership Connection, it's always been on like Rolling Stone's top 500 albums list. It's on that one list, 1001 albums you should listen to before you die. And it all makes sense, because you get the idea when you listen to Mothership Connection, you start to understand that not only are musicians different, Black people are different, because everybody feels like, Black people can't have nerdy interests like space and the cosmos and all that stuff. And I mean, Afrofuturism That's a genre all unto itself. And George definitely leaned into that with the P-Funk mythology. I mean, the next Parliament album is Funkadelic versus the Placebo Syndrome. And of course, you got Flashlight on it. You know, Flashlight. And it's just, it's an amazing album. If you have not heard any of the Mothership Connection, that is something you need to rectify as soon as I give my sign off. As soon as you hear me say what I say at the end of this show, go listen to the Mothership Connection, come back, let me know what you think. But if you have listened to Mothership Connection, please share your memories, please share your thoughts. Where does it rank on your personal albums list? For me, it's top 20. And I listen to a lot of music, as you guys can tell by this channel. But it's definitely a top 20 all-time album for me, just for the influential factor, for the musicianship, and just for what it meant to Black music at that point in time. So if you have not listened to Mothership Connection by Parliament, rectify that. If you have, we can have a conversation in the comments. You know how I do. I love to talk. So thank you guys for listening to this edition of On the Groove Line. Contact information will be in the description below. You can also subscribe and tap that notification bell so you're notified of all the new content that drops on this channel. Don't forget to like and comment on these videos as well, because as I said, I do talk back in the comments. So thank you guys for watching, listening, and riding with me on the Groove Line, is what I'm trying to say. And until the next time we ride, may you find the groove, or may the groove find you.